What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. And today we are going to be going through my picks for week 10 of the 2025 NFL season. So I am admittedly doing this a day earlier than I usually do. I'm working on a couple of more important videos. I shouldn't say more important, but more time consuming videos for the end of the week. So I wanted to get this recording and a couple others out of the way as soon as I could. So I am doing this before Monday Night Football. So currently for week 9, I'm sitting at 9-4, hopefully going 10-4 when it's all said and done, but an overall record of 89-44, good for about the 94th percentile on ESPN. So I want to keep building that momentum back up towards being around that 97, 98 that we were so early on in the season. So a really good week, a great week of football, unbelievable week of football. I feel like the past 4 or 5 weeks, it's been a little subpar with some of these games, but man, oh man, week 9 certainly made up for it. Some unbelievable football games. We will talk a bit about that as we go into these matchups here. But I am currently making these picks without the knowledge of what happens on Monday Night Football between the Arizona Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys. But before we get into this, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you aren't subscribed to the channel and you are watching this right now, please subscribe to the channel. We're closing in on about 700 subscribers at the time of recording on Monday, November 3rd. We are sitting at 682. That's an incredible number. Over the last month of this channel, we've gained like basically 250 subscribers over the past month. So just unbelievable numbers. You guys are awesome. Let's continue trending in the right direction. Let's get to 1,000 before the end of 2025. So please, if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Without further delay, let's get into it. We're going to talk about Thursday Night Football. Now, I thought this game I still think is going to go in favor of the Denver Broncos. Again, just another fourth quarter comeback for the Denver Broncos. This was twofold. There was a couple really nice things about this game. One, the defense didn't allow a single touchdown, 5 field goals away from home against the Houston Texans. Another fourth quarter comeback, but neither team really wanted to win this game. I feel like the Broncos kind of go week in and week out with good football. It feels like one week they play really good football. The next week they don't really know how to play offense again, and they somehow wind up winning. But I believe that was their 6th consecutive win and their like fourth quarter comeback of the year already. So at home against the Las Vegas Raiders, listen, the Raiders did lose in quite heartbreaking fashion to the Jacksonville Jaguars in overtime. They scored a touchdown. They went for 2. They did not convert it, and they did wind up losing the game. I love the aggressiveness. I'm never going to knock Pete Carroll for trying to go for the win. I'd rather have, to be quite honest with you, I know this might not make sense, but in terms of the Raiders, where you're falling very behind in the standings, I'd rather have a win than a tie. That's just me. So yeah, I applaud the aggressiveness. It didn't really work out, but this offense is different with Brock Bowers back being fully healthy. What do you have? 9 catches, 100 or 11 catches, something like that. 11 catches, 127 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was borderline unstoppable in his first really healthy game of the season since week 1 of the year. So this offense is a little different. Don't forget that the linebacker position for the Denver Broncos defense is probably the weakest on their defense. So, that's a matchup that might be exploited. But really, other than that, I don't really think the Raiders have the firepower on the outside to keep up with the corners of of the Denver Broncos. So give me the Broncos in this one to continue winning and to go to 8-2 and win 7 straight games after starting 1-2. Colts and Falcons. Listen, everyone's been waiting on the downfall of Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. I am not one of those people. If you actually watched the football game, you would see that the Colts basically controlled most of that game. It was just timely, costly turnovers by Daniel Jones. Listen, everyone is entitled to having a bad game. You're not going to have an unbelievable game every single week. Like I said, the Colts away from home against a playoff bound or playoff caliber team in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did say it last week, and it's funny. I said that this just seems like a game that the Pittsburgh Steelers would wind up winning. Don't ask me how or why, but it felt like that random win that they get against a better opponent. That just doesn't really make sense. And that's exactly what happened. And I still picked the Indianapolis Colts over it. So that even makes it funnier. But the Atlanta Falcons, speaking on the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, losing in heartbreaking fashion. They weren't winning at any point, but losing in the way that they did to the New England Patriots, excuse me, missing a extra point after another unbelievable touchdown catch by Drake London. What a game from him. What a game from Michael Penix Jr. This team just can't seem to get out of their own way. I don't really know what to make of this Atlanta Falcons team because this would be the game where the Falcons go into Indianapolis and crush the Colts. That's just the type of season that the Atlanta Falcons are having, where they'll beat a really, really good opponent and then play down to the. I'm not saying that the Patriots are bad; they are a great team, but they play to the caliber of their competition. And I just can't see the Falcons going into Indianapolis winning this, especially after the Colts kind of had a shitty performance. Daniel Jones in specific really didn't have a great performance. I feel like he will be able to throw quite a bit on this Atlanta Falcons secondary. So give me the Indianapolis Colts in this one over the Atlanta Falcons. The Chicago Bears at home against the New York Giants. And if the Giants weren't so injury riddled and if this game was at home, I'd probably give the nod to the Giants. But the Bears are playing some really good football on the offensive side. On the defensive side, they are terrible. So I firmly expect someone like Jackson Dart to have a really, really strong game and a really strong showing against this Bears secondary. But I think the Bears just overall are kind of putting it all together. I think labeling, I said it last year, I'll say it again at this point this year, labeling someone like Caleb Williams as a bust this early on in his career is crazy. I get it. He's still a little too inconsistent for me, but is he near a bust? Absolutely not. Nowhere near a bust at this point in his career. And he's actually playing some really good football most of these games. But against the Giants here, I think it's just going to be really tough for the Giants to go into Soldier Field and win this game against the Bears the way that they are. But speaking of a team that plays down to the competition, that usually is the Chicago Bears. So I wouldn't be surprised if this game is a little bit more of a game for a longer period of time. But eventually, I'm going to take the Chicago Bears over the New York Giants in this one. Moving on, you have the Buffalo Bills against the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins had a really strong showing 2 weeks ago against the Atlanta Falcons and then died on Thursday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. Couldn't even muster up a touchdown. And now they are playing the Buffalo Bills, who are just fresh off of a home victory against the Kansas City Chiefs and flying high. The run game has been absurd for the Buffalo Bills. They also run the ball at a higher rate than any team in the NFL. And I truly do think against this porous rush defense for the Miami Dolphins, I don't really think the Dolphins stand a chance. This is going to be a lot of a bigger blowout than I feel like their last meeting was. The Bills only won by 10, I'm pretty sure. What was it, 34-24 or something like that? I think this is going to be a much more controlled game for the Buffalo Bills. I think they're really going to control the tempo with the running game, with James Cook being as good as he has been this year. Ty Johnson even has a really nice complementary role. And then you have Josh Allen, who, can run the football as well. I just think overall the dominance is going to kind of show here with the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to take them over the Dolphins pretty easily in that one. This is a really tough one here. The Baltimore Ravens going to the Minnesota Vikings. This is a tough game because obviously the Ravens are not, their 3-5 record isn't indicative of the type of team that they are. But the Minnesota Vikings are a weird team at 4-4 with JJ McCarthy back. I don't know. This is a really, really tough game to kind of try and call here. I want to go with the Ravens because, Lamar is back fully healthy, but the pass rush of the Vikings kind of scares me against the Ravens. But I just don't know how someone like JJ McCarthy is going to. I can't get a gauge on just how good JJ McCarthy has been so far this year. I thought he played very well against the Detroit Lions, but they allowed the Lions to hang around that game a little bit too long. At home, it makes me more inclined to take the Minnesota Vikings, but I think I'm going to go against that feeling. I think I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens. Just how unbelievably solid Lamar Jackson looked in his return to action. I know it was against the Miami Dolphins. I get it, but to shake off the rust, have 217 yards, 4 touchdowns, basically be perfect on the day. it gives me a little bit more of a vote of confidence. And the Ravens know that they need to win now. They need to keep winning. With the Steelers winning an unsuspecting game against the Indianapolis Colts, they need to keep winning to keep pace if they want to make the playoffs. I really genuinely think that their best shot at making the playoffs is to win the NFC North. So they know that they need to keep winning in order to do something like that. So we're going to take the Baltimore Ravens here. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings win. I think JJ McCarthy, being under Kevin O'Connell's tutelage for this long, I think he has a good grasp of the offense. It's just a matter of executing. And I think, like I said, he played very well against the Lions. I think that this is going to be a much closer game than people give it credit for. And who knows, the Vikings might come away with a victory. But for now, I am going to pick the Baltimore Ravens. Moving on, you have my New York Jets hosting the Cleveland Browns here. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know why the Browns are underdogs in this one. The Jets coming off of a very inspiring win against the Cincinnati Bengals away from home the day that Nick Mangold passed away. And then they had their bye week this past week. So I was able to watch some stress-free football this week and not have my Sunday ruined like I usually do. But the Browns are a team that just kind of match up against the Jets really well. The Browns are kind of exactly the kryptonite of the New York Jets. They have a very strong pass rush. They are very, very strong against the run. They have a great rushing attack. They don't need to throw the ball through the air 50 times to win the game against the Jets. And that's really where the Jets are the weakest. Against pressure, in week 8, the Jets played very, very well against the Cincinnati Bengals, but it's the Bengals pass rush that has, the 27th worst pass rush in football. I think that Jim Schwartz and co know that they need to pressure Justin Fields. He holds on to the ball for entirely too long. If you can get pressure in his face, he is going to crumble. And I don't really think that the Browns need to do too much on the offensive side to win this game. I think that their defense is going to shut the Jets down quite a bit here. The Browns are not, I keep saying the word indicative. The Browns 2-6 record is not indicative of the team that they are. If they had a halfway decent quarterback and maybe like one other weapon, this is probably a playoff team in the AFC. I'm not kidding you when I say that. But I'm going to take the Browns here in this one. Buccaneers and the Patriots is another very, very tough game to call. The Bucs kind of reverting a little bit the last few weeks, but everyone has just been injured. It kind of is unfortunate. Luke Godecki just came off of IR, though. We don't really know what's going on with Bucky Irving. Mike Evans is still on IR. Chris Godwin hasn't been fully healthy. Emeka Ibuka the last couple weeks hasn't been fully healthy. It just kind of stinks, unfortunately, that the Buccaneers are falling into this. They're a great team and they're falling into the injury bug here right now. But at home, hopefully most of those guys will be coming back. I don't think Luke Godecki will be back, but hopefully Bucky Irving will be back. Emeka Ibuka will be fully healthy. And then, you're kind of cooking with gas there. But the Patriots coming into town, this has the potential to be the highest scoring game of the week. But with the Buccaneers being as clutch as they are down the stretch, I am going to give the slight edge to the Buccaneers in this one. The Patriots have been playing a rather cookie cutter schedule so far this year. I think the Bucs are actually, besides for the Bills, the Bucs are their toughest test to date and away from home. I know Drake May is playing MVP level football, but so is Baker Mayfield. So I think I'm going to give the slight edge to the Buccaneers in this one. Saints and the Panthers, and man, wouldn't this just be the perfect game for the New Orleans Saints to win? You want to talk about playing spoiler. The Panthers are a team that are 5-4, but don't really seem like they are playing 5-4 football. But they had an upset win away from home against the Green Bay Packers, which is really a game I truly did not see coming. Played really good on the defensive side. The Saints kind of couldn't get out of their own way against the Rams, and me recording this on Monday means that the trade deadline hasn't passed, and who knows, maybe Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Jawan Johnson, some of these guys maybe aren't going to be on the Saints going forward. I think, especially at 1-8 and seeing so little from Tyler Shuck as they saw, I think it's time to truly blow it up and kind of get any kind of draft compensation you can get for any of these guys. Maybe not Olave and Shaheed. I'd probably keep a hold of those guys, but fringe guys that aren't going to be back next year, I would probably consider trading at this moment in time. But give me the Carolina Panthers here over the Saints. But again, I wouldn't be totally surprised if the New Orleans Saints absolutely somehow come out here and dominate the Carolina Panthers because that's just the team that the Carolina Panthers are. Texans and Jaguars here at Houston. We don't really know the status of CJ Stroud. I believe he's still in concussion protocol here. But this is an intriguing matchup against the Jaguars here. The Jaguars are just a team that, I don't know, man. They can't really the Jags just can't really get it going. I'm still 5 years into his career. I still don't know if Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback or not. Brian Thomas Jr. is having a severely underwhelming sophomore season. Travis Hunter is out for the year at this point. There's a lot going on. I do think that I'll make this pick with the mind that, especially since I read a report that CJ Stroud actually is feeling much better already in concussion protocol. So, wow, I just read on my phone that Adam Schefter said that the Chargers have lost Joe Alt for the season, and that's brutal for them. Really, really brutal. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I am going to take the Texans in this one. I do think CJ Stroud plays, and I think that defense is just going to clamp down on Trevor Lawrence enough for the Texans to score, as many points as they need. Because really, they clamp down on the Denver Broncos, and really, if CJ Stroud is playing in that game, he probably gets a couple touchdowns to where they win that game pretty comfortably. So give me the Houston Texans here in this one. The Seahawks and the Cardinals. You want to talk about a guy who's playing MVP football? That's Mr. Sam Darnold. 17 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, had almost 300 passing yards and 4 touchdowns at halftime on Sunday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. This team is firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. There's no reason to believe, even with a win, even with a surprise win over the Dallas Cowboys tonight, I don't think that there's any way that the Seattle Seahawks go host the Arizona Cardinals and lose to the Arizona Cardinals. Even if I honestly think the offense has looked better this year without Kyler Murray, so he's not playing tonight against the Dallas Cowboys. He'll probably be back for the divisional game against the Seattle Seahawks, but honestly, I think the offense looks better without him at this point. Give me the Seahawks pretty easily in this one over the Cardinals. The Rams and the 49ers is another divisional game that is a difficult one. Earlier on Thursday Night Football this year, the 49ers went into LA and they did beat the Rams, but this Rams team is different. At 37 years old, Matthew Stafford is still playing MVP level football. He's leading the league in passing touchdowns with 27. He's second in the league in passing yards. He's only thrown 2 picks on the entire year. He's on a generational run where he has 9 touchdown passes in his last 2 games. Unbelievable stuff here. The 49ers just keep getting injured. Michael Williams is now out for the season. But this is a tough game to call. It really is, because the Rams are firing on all cylinders. The San Francisco 49ers are doing enough to get by and playing some pretty good football. But I'm going to go with the reverse here. I think the 49ers went into LA and they got the win. I think the Rams go into San Francisco and get the win over them too. But this is a close game. Don't forget that really in the second half of the first game, the Rams kind of sort of shut out Christian McCaffrey for the most part. So that's another thing that I would look for in this game as well, is how the Rams game plan against McCaffrey, because he's been unbelievable so far this year as fully healthy, one of the best players in football. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Rams game plan for him, especially if guys like Ricky Pearsall are out again, and they could really kind of focus more of their efforts into the running game. And you have the Lions and the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is obviously, I don't know if the report actually came out, but I have a gripe with Dan Quinn. Why in a 38-7 game was Jaden Daniels still in the game? Why? He's been injured this year. I mean, that was one of the more horrific arm injuries I've seen, not only in football, but just in sports in general. Thank God it wasn't to his throwing elbow. Just thank God. I know it's still going to affect the way that he plays football for the rest of his career, but just thank God that he'll still be able to throw a football, and he'll most likely be fully 100% healthy by the start of next year. But give me the Lions in this one. I mean, the Jared Goff the Lions might go for 70, honestly, in this game. Truly, I don't really think the Lions will have any issue scoring here. Jahmyr Gibbs didn't really have a strong game against the Minnesota Vikings. I expect him to break out. I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of player, where one game he doesn't really play great, and then he has a generational game, and then he won't play great, and then he has a generational game again. And he is certainly in line after what, 3 catches for 3 yards and like 10 carries for 17 yards against the Vikings. He's certainly in line for a huge performance against the Commanders in this one. Steelers and Chargers. This is tough for the Chargers. As we just mentioned, Joe Alt is out for the rest of the season here. Against the Steelers with that pass rush, God, the Steelers are just such a weird team. But I feel like the Steelers match up very well against the Chargers here in this one. I don't know. I mean, Justin Herbert's playing such good football right now. This is another one. You have some really easy games to pick this week, and then you have some really difficult ones. The Chargers and the Steelers, man, that is just a tough game. Aaron Rodgers in his home state. Though, I mean, he didn't really have too much to throw to this past week against the Indianapolis Colts. The defense just kind of came up clutch. I am going to go with the Chargers though in this one. I just think at home, I don't think the Steelers defense is particularly great. I mean, they show up to some games and they play great football, but in this one, I am going to go with the Chargers. I do think Justin Herbert is playing really good football. You know, are they getting Omarion Hampton back? I don't know if they are getting him back, but the defense has been playing pretty decent. They had a random scare against the Tennessee Titans this past week, but let's not pretend like a early Justin Herbert pick six and then a punt return touchdown. The game is 27-6. They didn't score an offensive touchdown, so let's not forget that. So I am going to go with the Chargers in this one. I think their defense will give Aaron Rodgers some sort of fits, but that is a game that is definitely susceptible to change, as is the Ravens and the Vikings and the Buccaneers and the Patriots. And then the final game, you have the Eagles taking on the Green Bay Packers here in this one. And I'm going to have to go with the Eagles here because the Packers are just such a fraud, in my opinion. Think about this. The 3 games that they haven't won this year came against the Browns, came against the Carolina Panthers, and it came against the Dallas Cowboys. 3 very, very winnable games. And I don't really think they've been tested as hard as they're going to be tested against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are playing really good football. They're passing the ball very, very efficiently. The run game hopefully has opened up. Hopefully that big game against the Giants will spring Saquon Barkley back to that offensive player of the year performance that he had last year. Even at Lambeau Field, I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. The Packers just I'm very disappointed in the Green Bay Packers here in this one. And I think the offensive line of the Eagles will hold up quite well against that pass rush for the Green Bay Packers. So give me the Eagles in this one, and let's put a random one in there. Let's say 49 will be the amount of points scored in that one. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are my picks for week number 10 of the 2025 NFL season. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.